Hello there. We meet again. Tonight, I've prepared a story that will help you drift gently into sleep. And what better way to learn than through a true story told like a fairy tale? So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let your mind travel with me to a time when an entire town simply couldn't stop moving. Once upon a summer morning in 1518, a woman stepped out into the narrow, sun-warmed streets of Strasbourg. She began to dance. There was no music playing, no festival, no one clapping along. Just an unstoppable, ghostly rhythm that seemed to pour straight from her bones. Within a few days, dozens joined her. They twirled, they swayed, they stomped, unable to rest, unable to stop. Their feet bled, their hearts raced. Some danced until they collapsed and never stood again. This might sound like a fairy tale, or maybe even a strange legend whispered before bedtime. But it's not. This is a true story, recorded by priests, doctors, and terrified families. Tonight, I'll take you into that strange summer, to a time when an entire town lost control of their bodies, and perhaps their minds. So get comfortable. Close your eyes if you like, and let's drift back in time, to the summer when no one could stop moving. Our story begins in July of 1518. With a woman named Frau Troffea. One morning, she stepped into the street and began to dance. Neighbors watched, bewildered. Hours passed, and she kept going. When the sun rose the next day, she was still moving. She danced through pain and exhaustion, as if some invisible force had taken over. By the end of the week, 30 more people had joined her. Soon, there were hundreds. Housewives, blacksmiths, children, all caught in the same haunting rhythm. The streets of Strasbourg turned into a living, breathing dance floor, but no one was smiling. People tried to help, but nothing worked. Onlookers described seeing dancers foam at the mouth, their eyes wild, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Some collapsed from sheer exhaustion. Others reportedly died from heart attacks and strokes. It wasn't a celebration. It was a nightmare in broad daylight. At the time, people didn't have science to explain what was happening. They believed it was a curse or divine punishment for sins. Some claimed the dancers had been possessed by demons, spinning them like puppets to teach the town a lesson. Others thought they had angered a saint, Saint Vitus, known for sending plagues of uncontrollable movements. There were whispers that maybe, just maybe, the dancers were trying to purge their sins through endless motion. In a world full of famine, plague, and fear, these explanations felt as real as the dance itself. City leaders were desperate to stop the madness, but instead of forcing people to rest, they came up with an idea. Let them dance it out. They actually built a stage in the city square, hired musicians, and encouraged the dancers to keep going, thinking they would tire out and recover. Imagine it, a live band playing to a crowd that could not stop, even when their bodies screamed for mercy. But this solution only made things worse. The music pushed them beyond their limits. More collapsed. More died. What started as a bizarre medical theory turned into a tragic, eerie performance. Today, historians and scientists have different ideas. Some suggest it was a case of mass psychogenic illness, what we now call mass hysteria. When stress, fear, and suggestibility combine, entire groups can experience real physical symptoms, even movements they can't control. Others point to ergot poisoning, a fungus found on rye that can cause hallucinations and convulsions, similar to LSD. But even today, no one can say for sure. The records are too old, too fragmented, too soaked in myth and fear to tell us the exact truth. So, why Strasbourg? Why in 1518? At that time, the city was struggling. Famine had left people starving. Plagues had taken countless lives. Political tensions and religious fear pressed on every mind like a heavy stone. In times of extreme stress, the human mind can crack in strange ways. Perhaps the dancing was a way to escape, to forget the pain, or to surrender completely to the chaos around them. It was as if the entire town slipped into a shared dream, one that none of them could wake from. When the dancing finally stopped, many lay dead. Those who survived were left with scars, not just on their feet, but on their souls. Over time, the event became a ghost story, a lesson, a symbol of how collective fear and suffering can twist reality. Today, the dancing plague reminds us how deeply connected we are and how fragile the line between control and chaos can be. It shows us that sometimes the mind's power is both a miracle and a curse. So next time you hear a catchy song and feel your foot start to tap, think of Strasbourg. Think of the summer when people danced not for joy, but because they simply could not stop. If this story kept you dreaming instead of sleeping tonight, leave a like, subscribe for more strange and forgotten tales, and tell me in the comments, what do you think really made them dance? Thank you for drifting back in time with me, and until next time, sleep well.